I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show, we have Puff from Yearn Bank, Korn from Yearn, and Sirada from Homora V2, all working closely together in the DeFi sector. And I'm really excited to dive into the intricacies of DeFi with all of you today because, I know a little bit about it, but I know that you guys are a lot more expert than I am on it, and it's moving together so fast, and there's a lot to talk about in recent updates as well. So thank you all for coming on the show. I would love to get a quick briefing of yourselves and the DeFi protocols that you work for, in a minute or less to start off our conversation, and then we'll deep dive into all the industry details. Puff, I'd love if we could start with you and Yearn Bank.
Sure. Thank you for having us on this show here. I think it's great for us to have an opportunity to talk about the partnership we have as well as the exciting things over on Optimism. So first things first, Yearn Bank is a decentralized lending platform. We're focusing on capital efficiency as our differentiation, working with protocols and individuals to supply and borrow crypto assets. So other ways we talk about this is that we're in the role of being the liquidity backbone for DeFi. And later on, when we talk about how we work with our partners here, I think that will be a little bit more clear.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Korn?
Yeah, hi, I'm Korn, and I focus on partner integrations for Yearn. And if you don't know Yearn, Yearn is a DeFi aggregator with a focus on security and risk-adjusted returns. And we find the most secure sources of yield in the DeFi ecosystem and create strategies for anyone to automatically use them so they don't have to focus on yield farming every day. And today, over 80% of deposits come through our 32 partner integrations. They're all projects building on top of Yearn and folks who need yield as a service or want their customers to have access to Yearn vaults.
Very cool. And Sirada?
Hi, I'm Sirada, product lead at Alpha Venture DAO, managing Homora V2, DeFi protocol, and driving Homora's growth strategy, partnerships, and business developments. So about Homora V2 is the world's first multi-chain lending and leverage yield farming protocol, and it's also the flagship product built by Alpha Venture DAO, or previously Alpha Finance Lab. So we first launched Alpha Homora back on Ethereum in October 2020 and gained about 2 billion in TVL at its peak during DeFi summer in 2021. And then we launched Homora V2 on Ethereum, then scaled to Avalanche, Phantom, and now to Optimism as well. So leverage yield farming in a nutshell, for those who are new to the concept of Homora V2, is a way of amplifying yield farming returns by borrowing external liquidity to increase your yield farming positions so you can earn higher yields and trading fees and farming rewards from the underlying DEX without having to own all the capital. And pretty much, you can say it's yield farming on steroids.
Yeah, and I feel like there's definitely a few viewers watching that do leverage yield farming. I feel like a lot of them are still sort of testing out the waters and figuring out the intricacies of just yield farming itself. And I know Yearn has had a great help in sort of aggregating things, and I feel like most of the protocols now are great at aggregating, making it a lot of things in different silos, making it easier to sort of see it all in one place. From what I understand, you guys have been working together, or the protocols work together for quite a while now. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
I could take that one.
Sure, I'll go ahead, please.
Yep. So, for instance, on Wrapped ETH, that strategy on mainnet for Yearn, the highest or most utilized strategy in that vault is the Homora lender yield optimizer. And Yearn Bank strategies are also used in tons of other yield strategies on Yearn. And more importantly, on Optimism right now, we only have 2 strategies available, and one of them is Yearn Bank. And I'm sure there will be a Homora V2 strategy on there soon.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And so from what I understand, the DeFi protocols, they're working with Ethereum, but also Avalanche, Phantom, these other blockchains. For somebody who isn't familiar with the intricacies of DeFi isn't following on which protocols are sort of growing the most with their value locked. Is there a major difference or are you seeing any growth trends in where people are depositing their assets into DeFi, and is it just what's the highest yield, or what kind of trends are you seeing between the different blockchains and strategies?
I'll take that one. We're seeing that there's definitely a lot of consolidation into, well, maybe consolidation is the wrong word, but there's definitely a direction into the layer 2s, whether it's Optimism or Arbitrum. And I think that's mainly due to the fact that the security properties of these layer 2s are inherited from the ETH mainnet, so making them some of the safest EVM chains out there. And so one trend that was happening for a while for the sort of the beginning of the cooling market was that people were moving to cheaper chains with faster transactions, cheaper transactions. And I think what that's leading to then is additional features that can be deployed where now that users are on cheaper chains or chains that can react faster, plus the gas prices have come down since the usage has dropped off a bit. So that's actually allowing now for fancier things to happen. So much of the stuff that these yield generating type transactions would do would eat up a lot of gas, and I think that's definitely something that transitioning to a layer 2 like Optimism has helped a lot with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Korn, you also mentioned Optimism there. From what I understand, it's the DeFi on it is newer than some of the other ones that have been around for a while. What does that look like when an Optimism comes into the picture afterwards and funds get moved around over to there? How does that affect all these protocols? And I'm guessing it's a good thing for DeFi in general.
Yeah, we had a community member make a Dune dashboard one day for where TVL is coming from for our 3 ecosystems today. Those were what were our 3 ecosystems, mainnet, Phantom, and Arbitrum. And he found that on the non-mainnet layers that over 80% of the wallets and user interaction were net new users. So that's why we chose to go down the path with Optimism, and we're glad we did, because unlike some of the other ecosystems that we were exploring or that people were coming to us and asking us to be part of, there were no good yield farming opportunities. And on mainnet, the reason why Yearn vaults have so much use is because of our foundational vaults that are single deposit of like WBTC or WETH or USDC or DAI, and where there are good farming opportunities, there is going to be high TVL in DeFi, and Optimism has that today, and we were able to make those 5 vaults from day one, and I think that's why we're going to see success on there.
That's great to hear. And with Optimism, as sort of from what I understand it, as a layer 2 to Ethereum, is it make a huge significant difference from the vaults that were on Ethereum to Optimism?
I think it does in terms of like gas consumption, sure. We know that today, sure, the costs on mainnet are not that high, but they will be again someday. And the time to build on those secondary layers where things are cheaper and where we're going to like do more experimentation, the time is now to do that. And we also decided recently for our Vaults V3 product that's coming out, that's going to have more composable strategies to do all of the testing for that on Optimism and not on mainnet. So
that's good to know. And Sirada, you mentioned at the beginning about how the TVL was pretty large, and since you started, and then it worked its way up to November 2021 with billions in liquidity. I'm curious on your take on the liquidity now, and if you're seeing growth trends in DeFi, from the spring when the markets have sort of been downhill. Is DeFi growing in interest from new people that are coming in, or are you? I don't know if you can tell, but are you seeing people pretty bearish and withdrawing their funds from DeFi still? Where do you see it sort of sitting from here and to the end of this year in the next 2-3 months?
Sure, happy to give some insights on that. So we do see growing demand actually after there were times that some of the users, especially of our institutional users, parked their money after the Terra crisis and like the 3AC, where things kind of sparked a lot of FUD in the market. But after that, we do see a lot of institutional money flowing back into the protocol. And I do work a lot with many crypto hedge funds that use our protocol frequently. So we do see two inflows of capital coming in. So on the lending side, where users are still looking to earn high yields on stable assets and majors like ETH or Bitcoin to still earn risk at a lower risk, earn high yields at a lower risk, my bad. And on the farming side, what we are seeing more popular in this sort of market are more of like market neutral strategies or hedging strategies, where hedge funds still earn yields while hedging out their risk. And we see these strategies becoming more popular on the farming side. And also, we're working more on growing Homora into an integration hub, where we work with many DeFi protocols that build vaults and yield strategies on top of Homora V2. And we also have some examples of pseudo delta neutral vaults building on top of Homora coming out as well. And building on top of Optimism also helps in reducing gas fee as well. And we've seen a good sentiment coming from both projects that we work with and users that use our protocol. And we anticipate growing demand as layer 2s are becoming more popular, and also with more growing demand from institutional users as well.
That's great to hear. And would it be safe to say, in sort of alluding to what Korn was talking about with the major assets on Optimism, that a majority of the DeFi users are sort of, with respect to how risky DeFi could be, playing it safe and sort of using those major assets like wrapped Ethereum and stable coins to sort of limit their risk as much as possible in DeFi, and that's where you're seeing like the majority of people. I feel like a lot of people that got into DeFi, because of super high yields, got burned on shit coins or some coin that didn't really wasn't sustainable, and then all of a sudden it crashed to zero, and they sort of left a bad taste in their mouth for DeFi. But from what I understand, the smart people are using the large assets and sort of mitigating their risk as much as possible.
Yeah, I think another insight I can add is that some of the strategies in growing the protocol and how users are using the protocol shifted a lot back from DeFi summer, where users would just ape in for high yields and just move asset to like the highest yield that they can find. To now, users do care a bit more about like risk management, hedging out risk, going for strategies that gives them high yields but lower risk, and just users are a bit more careful about the quality of the assets, and they are more selective as well. And yeah, everyone is being a bit more cautious, but still trying to earn high yields. And Homora V2 does support that, because we offer many ways that users can earn high yields through lending, through hedging, through farming, and users can earn yields in any sorts of market conditions, and that's what we support.
That's great. And did I hear that Homora V2 doesn't have an Optimism strategy yet, but you're working on integrating that in as well?
So at the moment, we are the first that provide leverage liquidity providing on Uniswap V3. And there are many projects and partners that approached us that are interested in collaborating more on providing more strategies on top of Uniswap V3. And we're also exploring welcoming more partners as well. It's something we're working on, and we're happy to share more once we have something more solid in place.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds great. And Puff, I want to jump over to you about Optimism. From what I understand, you're also making partnerships with Iron Bank with Optimism. I'd love to hear how that approach is going and how that affects Iron Bank moving forward.
So we work mainly as supporting liquidity for our partnership, for example, Yearn and Homora V2. So when we make our decisions on where to move or where to deploy next, we generally want to make sure our friends are there with us. And so part of this launch as well was, so we did launch collectively into Phantom as well as Avalanche previously. And with this launch, Homora was great that we were able to line up Yearn and Homora V2 at the same time. And then so we can, have an impact here. And it's worked out well because we, for a while, we were thinking about introducing this IB token incentive to drive some initial seeding of liquidity, because one of the problems we ran into previously was thinking about how, while we want to continue to serve well for our partners as a liquidity backbone, but then there's a bit of like a sort of phasing to consider here, where if our partners are launching on day one, then we need to have liquidity in by like day -3 or something like that. So we've been playing with kind of incentive structures, and it worked out fairly well, where by providing some amount of staking APY, we're able to then kind of kick that off the initial liquidity, and as demand comes in from the partners borrowing, then what happens is the native APY goes up. So then as the staking APY goes down, when more money is coming in, then it kind of offsets very well in that it provides a very, very balanced scenario. So the outcome actually would be interesting to talk about here is, even as of right now, the RAP-E net APY on Iron Bank, if you just put it into the earn vault, is 9.54 right now. Or you can access this both on ib.xyz or from Homora V2. But certainly with 9.5% APY on RAP-E, and then currently at 7.2 on USDC, and on OP token itself is almost 13.5. So I think that in an environment where yield is hard to come by in this bear market, this has certainly been helpful for DeFi players or DeFi users as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great to know. And Korn, we spoke about all the different partnerships that Yearn Finance has, and obviously having a lot of different partnerships, a lot of different strategies on different protocols in one place is a great competitive advantage for having a good DeFi protocol. Do you have any other notes on what are the important best practices for your DeFi protocol and DeFi protocols in general, in terms of making it the best place to do DeFi in a safe and quality focused manner, whether it's like the price oracles, management of it, besides obviously having great partnerships?
Yeah, safety is pretty much all we care about, and having the best risk-adjusted returns in DeFi. And to do that, we've come up with this 8-metric risk framework, and it's modeled after the aviation industry. And it helps us evaluate risk of all the farms that we use. So we evaluate the TVL impact, so we don't make strategies for anything that has a lot of slippage. We look at all the third-party audits. We do our own internal code review. We look at the complexity of the actual strategy that we're making, the longevity of the platform that we're going to be farming, the safety that the farm or protocol that we're farming has, and our own internal team knowledge, because we need to have multiple people aware of what's going on at all times. And we also, of course, do our own internal testing. So with that, and with our safe farming committee structure, we've kind of developed our own best practice. And I guess that's kind of why when Yearn makes a strategy for something, we're kind of seen as like a seal of approval when it comes to DeFi safety. So
Wow.
yeah, there's a lot of best practices out there to follow. And of course, for users, these are questions only they can answer. But the one that they should always remember, and the one that like really brings us back to why DeFi and crypto even exists today, is not your key is not your crypto, and people need to really hammer that home and educate everybody else about why that's important.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, that's a great point, Corn, and it's great to hear about following the aviation standards. I feel like that has to be safe, for people not to die, or in this case lose their funds. And we're still seeing DeFi hacks here and there.
Yep.
And we're also still seeing it in centralized exchanges as well. And I'm curious if you see, a pivotal point where more people join DeFi, or will there be an aha moment where something crashes on Coinbase, Binance, or FTX, and all of a sudden people are gonna have that necessity to be like, hey, we should really take this seriously, that we should be getting into DeFi?
It could be some external event. It could be something that doesn't even happen in crypto. I really don't know the answer to that, and I don't know if it's going to be just one singular event. Mm-hmm. But I can promise you that we're going to find out together.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever there's anticipation of something that's sort of known, and then it's usually not that. It's usually some black swan event that comes out of left field. And that's why it's always good to be proactive in obviously keeping control of your keys and your funds, and not leaving your currency on centralized exchanges for other people to take, or in CeFi platforms like Celsius, because you never know when you're not going to get it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great. And Sirada, do you have anything to add to that in terms of best practices and ensuring that people are always, just confident that their assets are super safe, and they understand sort of the yields that they're getting? And I guess one extra add-on to that question is, obviously there's audits on all of these smart contracts, mm-hmm. But I've seen people take the next step with protocols coming out about DeFi insurance for losses, and I'm curious if you think that's a nice added value or necessity in DeFi as well.
Yeah, sure. So on the security aspect, Homora V2, we place high priority on that for users, because we do understand we do serve a lot of institutional users as well as many retail users, and that's one thing that we can help assure users that their fund is in a good place. So we promise high yields without compromising security, so users can fund with ease of mind. So one thing is that we go through review of smart contract very cautiously, and also we have internal testing, and we have multiple audits as well for each of the Homora V2 that we launch on different chains. And we also selectively list pools and assets that pass our screening criteria. So we make sure that the coins, the tokens, the assets pairs that we can support on the platform have decent and reliable Oracle price feed. That's for sure, number one priority. And secondly is that they have deep liquidity, decent traction, real use case, in order to generate real yields. And I think that has been something that users have been expressing demand, and strong demand after a lot of the events in DeFi and a lot of the cycles in the past, that users are looking for more transparent and sustainable yields, more of the real yields. So we do care about the qualities of the tokens and the assets that we provide. And also, additionally, I think with the strong fundamentals and UI UX as well, we do have breakdowns of yields in terms of what they can expect to get, and we make sure that users will get the best experience out of that, and they will really get what we promised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's great. All right, well, we don't really have a lot of time left, but I really thank you guys all for your insight into the DeFi world. I feel like I'm a DeFi newbie, although I've been in crypto for a long time. just trying to dip my foot in, and all this insight really helps. And I feel like, just as DeFi is only going to get easier, I would hope, and the intricate parts that you guys as the experts are sort of making it easy for people to join into the protocols. Corn, I guess, do you have any last remarks on why people that are just getting into DeFi over the next few years should be very optimistic that it's going to be something that's going to be around for a while?
Well, I think today there are more people building in DeFi than there have ever been before. And that trend is only going to continue to increase. And we are only going to continue sucking in talent from the other TradFi side. People think it's more interesting to work over here on this side of the fence, and it is. So I think we're only going to continue to grow.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for coming on the show. I will leave the links to Iron Bank, Yearn, and Homora V2, and a little bit about Optimism as well in the description box below. All the best in helping grow the DeFi industry, and let's definitely follow up in the near future.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.